Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. Welcome back to brand new video. Arsenal are back for Alexander Isak, and in this video, we're going to be diving into the Arsenal striker situation. Victor Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, Duncan Ferguson, and Alexander Isak. Who are Arsenal really going to target? And according to Fabrizio Romano, there are no talks between Arsenal and any particular striker. So at the moment, it is still very, very open. I have a couple of questions on Alexander Isak, obviously, for you in the comment box below. Number one, is he better than Victor Gyökeres, in your opinion? And number two, is it a striker we need? I mean, that's a big question. He resembles Gabriel Jesus very much. He's one of those strikers that don't score a lot of goals, but their work rate is really impeccable, and is one of the players that have that unprecedented work ethic. So talk to me in the comment box below. Do you like Alexander Isak, number one? And number two, would you take Alexander Isak over Victor Gyökeres? Hit the like button. Let's get this video to 300 likes, and let's dive into the latest Arsenal transfer speculation. Now let's start off with this that big story. The Arsenal are really now back for Alexander Isak. It was broken by Eduardo Hagen and a couple of other journalists, confirming that Arsenal are really now being attracted by Alexander Isak, and he's been in quite fine form of recent. He's really had a couple of good games, and I think this is why the stories are actually circulating around. But also Newcastle's financial situation, we know that it is a problem for them. We also know as well that Newcastle are not the best team for Alexander Isak. I think he's one of those players that are really too ambitious for the project Newcastle have at the moment, and I won't be surprised that a couple of players will leave Newcastle and Alexander Isak will be among those. But let's start here. Is the interest in Alexander Isak genuine? 100%. Now, remember, Arsenal have always followed Alexander Isak right from the days, at Real Sociedad. We wanted to sign him in that January transfer window. I think it was in 2020, but we couldn't get him and Dusan Vlahovic because of the price tags and also because of the release clauses. Then Arsenal decided to sign Gabriel Jesus at the moment, who was a little bit cheaper, and it worked out very well. But fast forward to right now, Arsenal looking for a number 9. We're looking for a guy who can score goals. We're looking for a centre forward who can be different. I think for us to compete with Man City and Liverpool consistently for the next 5-6 years, we will need a 20 goal scorer, a consistent 20 goal scorer. That's all we are asking for. I don't think there are many strikers out there that are going to be Ronaldo or Messi or Zlatan Ibrahimovic scoring the 30s, the 50s every single campaign. But if you get one that can score for you 20 goals plus 5 penalties, that's 25 goals, I think it will be it's actually good value for money. It would be a very good return on investment. So Alexander Isak, Arsenal are back. So okay, the interest is genuine. At least I understand that, right? The question is, Alexander Isak, is he a ruthless poacher? We're trying to replace Gabriel Jesus, and many people right now on this channel that I've seen have told me, because we should sell Gabriel Jesus, we should actually let him go. He's not the guy that is going to be scoring for us the vital goals. An example was over the weekend. He gets 3 good chances and he buries none of them. And in my opinion, if you have Erling Haaland in any of those 3 situations, Erling Haaland could have scored one of those goals, right? So for me, my problem with Gabriel Jesus is he will get into the good areas, he will occupy the nice places, but he never gets anything out of them. You never see him as a player that is eventually going to score those important goals or even those many goals in a campaign, right? And I think that's what Arsenal are missing at the moment. So is Alexander Isak ruthless? Now, this is a question of opinion. Personally, I don't think he's a ruthless poacher. I don't think he is a ruthless finisher. However, this is the difference between him and Gabriel Jesus. I think with Gabi, you can see signs of a player who really doesn't care about the goals, but really cares about his general play, right? He's not like Erling Haaland. With Alexander Isak, he's very talented and his general play is fantastic, really fantastic. He will set up goals, he will press like a monster, he runs a lot, his aerial ability is also very good. But in front of goal, he's missing something and he is lacking something. And one thing we have seen with Mikel Arteta and Edu and whoever is working with these players at Arsenal is they can transform a player. So I won't be surprised one day we sign Alexander Isak and a few seasons later he becomes a 30-goal poacher, he becomes a 35-goal poacher, because I think that is one aspect of his game that can be improved. Right now, again, people will ask, or you'll ask yourself, are we looking for a number 9 to score goals right now, or we're looking for a guy that we can improve time after time? I don't think you're going to get a perfect number 9 in the market. The perfect number 9s are drying out, right? So it would have been Benzema, Higuain, who else? Robert Lewandowski, Ronaldo, and probably Messi, if you consider him as a number 9, just a goal scorer, and the likes of Kylian Mbappe. Those are the guys that are finished articles. They will bang in the goals for you, and maybe Erling Haaland. They're not accessible at the moment. So what is in the market is Victor Gyökeres, very young. He's going to need a lot of improvement in his game. What is on the market is Alexander Isak, 23, 24 as well, very young, and he's going to need a lot of improvement on his game. So I think Arsenal are right to look at Alexander Isak. The only question that we have to answer before we dive into Alexander Isak is the best player is he better than Victor Gyökeres? And that takes me to the next story in this presentation, which actually comes in from David Onstein, and he says the likes of Sesko and Gyökeres are well thought of at Arsenal, as is Ferguson, but the price Brighton would want this season has had so far perhaps makes him less likely at the moment. I don't see it being an Osimhen or Ivan Toney. There will be other options too. That is according to David Onstein. And Fabrizio Romano says that my understanding remains that Arsenal have not open talks or concrete talks with any striker. As I said many times, Victor Gyökeres for sure is one of the options in the list, as they have spent months in attendance with their scouts in Portugal to follow the Sweden international's progress. Still at the moment, there are no talks or concrete negotiations, as Arsenal want to take their time before deciding who is the player they will sign up front. That is according to Fabrizio Romano. Interesting insights right there from Romano and David Onstein. So we're looking at other strikers, and David Onstein says he doesn't think it's going to be an Ivan Toney signing or it's going to be a Victor Osimhen signing. That means that Arsenal are concretely looking at these 3 players: Benjamin Sesko, Victor Gyökeres, and Alexander Isak. I think we are really considering them very much, and I won't be surprised if Arsenal end up with Sesko. I won't be surprised if Arsenal end up with Gyökeres or even Alexander Isak. So with Isak, we have to think about 3 things. 1, the price. He's not going to come cheap. I've been reading TalkSport today, and they're saying that the deal could cost in excess of 100 million. And they're right. I don't think Newcastle are looking at Alexander Isak as a player who has diminished in value. I think just playing in the Premier League, coming from the Spanish La Liga and playing in the Premier League at a very, very top level, going to the UEFA Champions League with Newcastle and continuing to bang in the goals and create that kind of impact, that actually raises the bar for whoever wants to buy him. If you cannot spend over 70 to 90 million, I don't think you'll get Alexander Isak. Secondly, do Newcastle really want to sell? And I think this is something that Newcastle have to ask themselves, and Arsenal have to ask themselves before we commit to hunting down Alexander Isak as a target. Do Newcastle really have to sell, and do they want to sell, and does the player really want to move, right? If Newcastle want to sell and the player wants to move, then the deal could be easier, done. If the player wants to move, but Newcastle don't want to sell, we know they have the financial power to give him a more lucrative deal and a better lucrative deal that doesn't make any sense, and Arsenal are not doing that. So I think Newcastle will be open to selling, right? One of their chief administrators has said every player has a price tag, especially if you're looking to work with the profit and sustainability scope. Every player has a price tag, and that means that whatever happens, Alexander Isak might just end up as one of those players that Arsenal could sign. I won't be surprised if the deal goes through. I won't be surprised if a deal happens. Because Newcastle are not 100% saying we are not selling. They have financial fair play problems. They have, their own bit of, need for cash to spend in the summer. So they might replace Isak with a low-level, or a low-price striker. Again, I won't be surprised to see Ivan Toney going to Newcastle and Alexander Isak going to Arsenal. Would they want to sell to Arsenal? Probably not. It's one of those deals that you're strengthening a potential rival. I think Newcastle will be back challenging Arsenal in the next 2 years. They don't want to give us Isak, Guimaraes, and all those cool stuff, right? But it's a deal that I see picking up some storm and picking up some good fit in the summer. We'll talk about it. So what about the other options? If I compare Isak to Victor Gyökeres, what I'll tell Edu and Mikel Arteta, please go and sign Alexander Isak. Now, I love Victor Gyökeres. I really, really do. And I think every day when I look at his clips and I watch him and I talk about him, I fall in love with Victor Gyökeres. And I would love Victor Gyökeres to sign for FC Barcelona or Borussia Dortmund or AC Milan. Please get it done. But when it comes to Arsenal, I think I might be wrong, but this is what I think. I think the Arsenal project is far ahead, really ahead of players like Victor Gyökeres. I think Alexander Isak is behind our development process at the moment, but I think he might need 1 season or half a season for him to catch up, right? Players like Kai Havertz have been lucky, the likes of Martin Odegaard, that they have come in at a time where this Arsenal project is still at its infancy. But with Kai, he has needed less than half a season to catch up, and then with the likes of Odegaard, brilliant, simply brilliant. So with Alexander Isak, I know within the first 20 games he comes into this Arsenal side, he will struggle, but after that he becomes a monster and he becomes a pretty very good player. I think he can raise his levels. I think he can be consistent. He's got an injury in him every now and then, and probably that's something Arsenal will look at. But I won't be surprised if Arsenal definitely decide Isak is the guy, right? So for me, he's better than Gyökeres at the moment because he's playing in the Premier League and is putting in consistent performances, maybe 7 out of 10 performances. Scoring the goals, that will be his job. And of course, we have the creativity and we have the team to back him up, right? So I think he's a Mikel Arteta player. I think he's an Arsenal player according to what we are trying to do. Sesko and Duncan Ferguson. Is it called Duncan Ferguson or Ivan Ferguson? Ivan Ferguson, actually. With Ben Sesko, I've said this before. I think Arsenal need to give him some time, and everyone in the market, by the way, you need to give him some more time for him to develop into the player he wants to become. I think if he wants to leave RB Leipzig right now, the right destination would be a Borussia Dortmund, a club like Inter Milan right now. I think Inter are really at the top level, but they could develop his career. A Bayer Leverkusen, if either Patrick Schick or Victor Boniface was to leave, I think that is still his level. I don't see him as a player that could go to Bayern and replace Robert Lewandowski or help out Harry Kane. I don't see him as a player who comes in to replace Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who we have not replaced in a long time, although we have tried to do it with Edin Ketia and Gabriel Jesus. So Sesko, I'm still skeptical about him. Ivan Ferguson this season has not really had a lot of action, and I think he was an exciting player, and he is still a very exciting talent, but I think his talents were kind of flashed to us and we didn't really get to catch them very well. Now, I won't be surprised again if Arsenal decide to try on Ivan Ferguson, but I think Brighton will be asking for in excess of 70 million. In excess of 70 million for a 19-year-old or 20-year-old that has not proven yet that he can even keep the likes of Joao Pedro out of the team, that he can keep Danny Nita, Kimensa Welbeck. out of the team, I'm still very skeptical about that, right? But of course, I'm going to do a whole tier list on this channel today, a whole tier list of the strikers Arsenal are interested in and why I think some of those names just don't make any sense. So make sure today at exactly 11 p.m. It's coming out in the night. 11 p.m. we will be doing a tier list ranking all the strikers Arsenal are linked with, selecting the top ones and debunking the rubbish. I'll speak to you right in the next one.